Good afternoon. Welcome to the October 24th, 2018 Urban Design Commission meeting. First item on the agenda is roll call.
Jorge Charnico, Lee Peoples, Anthony Blatt,
Present.
Dylan Bradway,
Present.
Donna Cervantes, Matt Guillory, Tyler Holmes,
Here.
Ben Sellers,
Here.
James Farnham.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Next item on the agenda is approval of minutes. It's in your packet. And if there are no comments, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion and second. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Item number 3 is cases withdrawn. And there are none. Item number 4 is continuance requests, and there are none. Item number 5 is items on the consent docket. And unless there's anybody who would like to speak to items on the consent docket.
I was wondering if we had any any more renderings or better idea of what the first item on the consent docket, the 312 Northwest 23rd Street, is going to look like.
Do you want to pull that item, and then we'll address the others? Do you want to pull that item?
Yes, please.
Okay, so for items B and C, can I get a motion?
Motion to approve the items B and C of the consent docket.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I'm going to go back to item A, which is UDC 180031 at 312 Northwest 23rd Street.
This item is a case for a new building with a new parking lot at 312 Northwest 23rd Street. It's adjacent to the Subway restaurant between Harvey and, Harvey and Hudson on the south side of the street. The application was reviewed per the applicable development standards and design guidelines for the Northwest 23rd Street design guidelines, and found to be consistent with all the applicable regulations and guidelines. Therefore, we put it on the consent docket for your consideration. We're recommending approval of the project. There are no renderings submitted for this project, just the required floor plans and elevations, along with the spec sheets for the materials on the exterior of the building. And the applicant is present if you have any other questions.
You want to state your name and then...
My name is Sam Gresham. I'm here to represent the owner. We were given this project by another architect, and this is probably the best explanation for no renderings. It has been, I think, placed properly on the side, and again, it was done well by a previous, Ken Fitzsimmons, his brother. So, but it's foremost on the property. It runs right up to the front property line, as is sort of prescribed urban development. But as far as the exterior finishes and look, it is rather contemporary. I don't really, if you require a rendering, I'm not sure that, I don't know how I could produce it today, but what are your concerns?
It's not concerns. It was just there's we have a small north elevation shot, and I do remember the last time we approved something for this site that Ken did, and I remember vaguely what the style was. It was more in keeping with the architectural styles on the street. This one is going more in a modern or contemporary stylistic fashion. Is that right?
It's somewhat like Gaiut's down the street, which Ken did also. The exterior, it has a rooftop occupied rooftop deck, and it would, and therefore what you see from the street is a railing and outdoor seating, both on the ground level as well as on top of the building over the front third of the structure. The lot's elevated, so it's, I'm not sure I can describe more than...
I don't really have any major concerns. I was just curious as to what, a little bit more information about what the architectural style was going to be.
It's largely storefront glass across the front with what amounts to a railing with some openness there at the span above the glass. It's meant to present a lively view from the street, enliven the street, if you will.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments from commission or audience? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the application on the basis that the project meets the regulations and guidelines of the Urban Design Overlay District zoning ordinance as referenced in Section C of the staff report.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
Under 6, cases for individual consideration, we have one item, UDCA 18-00036 at 829 Northwest 8th Street. Is the applicant present? Yes. Michael, would you like to introduce the project?
Yes, this application is submitted for the demolition of 2 single-family residential structures along with a church on the north side of Northwest 8th Street at North Francis Avenue, the northeast corner of the intersection. And in conjunction with that proposal for demolition, there is a proposal for a new residential complex of 9 attached townhouse dwelling units with detached garages in the rear at the alley. We have detailed for you in the staff report the conditions and considerations that are existing in the field with respect to the existing structures. And in light of those considerations, we have recommended to the Commission that that the removal of these structures could be appropriate depending on your consideration of the significance and urban design characteristics of the existing structures and their context in the district. And then secondarily, there's also a request for a variance, and the variance is for the front yard setback, and it's not to be closer to it, it's to be further away from it that it's required. Normally, with structures in cottage district, we're looking at homes that are in line with the front setbacks of the existing structures on the same side of the street of the same block. That standard only applies to single-family and two-family residential structures, and this is not considered that, so it's reviewed on a different standard, and that standard is that they are supposed to be at or within 10 feet of the front property line. And the applicant has submitted an application where some are close to being 10 feet, but there are a few units that are pushed back a little bit, and they're anywhere from 11 to 13 feet back. And this Monday, we received a new graphic from the applicant wherein they moved the entire front building intact in its footprint and floor plans back to the north 7 feet further. So now the variance request is still valid and still necessary, but it's just a different variance request. It's now further back than 10 feet than it was before. But the request is still to be beyond the 10-foot maximum front setback. We've provided a copy of that new graphic at the dais for you to review. It's got the new location of the structure highlighted in yellow And then secondarily, yesterday afternoon, we received a copy of a letter that raises some concerns and issues with respect to this project. There's 4 items, one with visitor parking, one with resident parking, one with regard to the trash collection for this facility, and also the 4th item was regarding the setback, and I'm not sure if the new location completely alleviates their concern with regard to the setback issue or not, but it has been moved back substantially, so it's almost in line at the east end with the structure that's adjacent to it at the east end of the project. It's still further out front. It's about 4 feet closer to the street, I think, than the existing structure that's there today at the east end abutting it. But in essence, we feel that with respect to the variance that because they're moving it back and trying to make it more compatible with the existing framework of structures and homes that are out there in the district in this area, we have recommended approval, or that the commission recommend approval of the variance request to the Board of Adjustment. That completes our presentation. We're prepared to respond to any questions the commission may have.
Does the commission have any questions for staff? Would the owner like to present?
Sure. David Box, 522 Colcord Drive, here today on behalf of the applicant, who are also here with me, as well as Philip Morgan, who is the architect for this project. That here in a few moments will get up and present some of the details of the design of this project. At the outset, I do want to address a couple of the issues raised by staff. We are seeking to demolish 3 structures. It is worth noting, as you will likely have read in your staff report, 2 of those are single-family homes that have been in quite bad condition for quite some time due to the fact that they've been vacant. They have had to battle squatters living there. It's our understanding that there have been a series of fires that have been set over the years into those structures, and they've become problems, I believe, for the neighborhood. So we do have staff support to demolish those, and as it relates to the church property on the corner, I'll note that in your staff report at page 10, staff's comments say, from a design standpoint, the church is a relatively unassuming single-story gable roof structure with no significant architectural features. So what you're presented here with today, we believe is something more in keeping with the way that this neighborhood has been trending over the last 10 years. It's going to be a high-end product that will complement the neighborhood well. It is one that staff recommends approval. What we are seeking is essentially single-family attached. It is 9 units on 8 city lots. So the density is in the range that you would expect to see in the urban core. I do want to address specifically the letter that Mr. Philbrick had raised. I believe we got a copy of that either late today or late yesterday or early today. And they do raise 4 points. The first being visitor parking. We believe that the visitors to these residents will park in the same manner as any visitor that would come to any home in any neighborhood, whether it be Sosa. I happen to live in one of the historic neighborhoods in this city. Most of the driveways in my neighborhood are single-lane driveways, so it's oftentimes that you will see people parked up and down the public streets in our city. So we don't believe that there to be an issue there. In terms of owner parking, as staff indicated, these will have detached garages. Each garage will be a 2-car garage with sufficient width to have 2 cars, sufficient depth to have additional storage. So we don't anticipate any issues there. Trash service was raised. We are taking access to the garages from the alley. It is anticipated that the city will pick up our trash from the alley. We don't anticipate any problems in that regard. And finally, the setbacks. As Mr. Philbrick had mentioned, we have revised our project to be more in keeping with some of the other developments that have occurred over the last several years in the neighborhood. One of the oddities we face here is, in order to be more in keeping with the setback lines established throughout the neighborhood, we have to violate the provisions of the code that are required for this site. So that is the nature of the variance. But as staff mentioned, we work slightly further towards the street. We believe that to be in keeping with the spirit and intent of the regulations, but as a specific concession to certain neighbors within the Sosa neighborhood, my client has agreed to push that back a little further. What you'll see is this development that was recently approved by this body at, I believe that's 8th and Chartel, the northwest corner, we took the front line that we believe to be that structure and projected it out across. And what you'll see is our development is staggered across our frontage, several of which have met that line. And so we believe now we have a development that is perhaps more in keeping with some of the other homes that have been built here recently within this district. And all factors considered, this is a development that does meet the spirit and intent of the regulations, as well as is in compatibility with the balance of the neighborhood. So as such, we would ask for your approval. I do at this point, unless there are questions of me, would like the architect to come up and walk through some of the design details of this project. So if there are no questions, I'll sit down and let Mr. Morgan come up.
Go ahead.
As Mr. Box said, my name is Philip Morgan, and I represent RBA Architects in Oklahoma City. We are the architects of the Sosa Townhome project. I'm really here to answer any questions you have, but just in a brief overview of the project, it is a 9-unit townhome, which attached units. They do have detached 2-car garage, as Mr. Box mentioned. This project is approximately 18,000 square feet. Each unit, the 2 units on the end will be 3-bedroom units. The units in the center, 2 through 8, will be 2-bedroom units. The exterior is modular brick with exterior insulating finish system, EIFS. We'll use aluminum storefront glazing with a black veneer finish. And at the bedrooms, we will have an awning-type opening functional window. The roof is a fully adhered single-ply roofing membrane. We have balconies for each unit, which will have a steel railing with horizontal pickets. The balconies will be framed in a steel channel for architectural feature. We believe that there are privacy fences that will separate the backyard units, a backyard for each unit, which will be a CMU construction, and they will be coated with a elastomeric coating to give a nice smooth finish. The finish that we're intending for the EIFS is like a Venetian plaster, although it is an exterior product. Really, that's kind of the overview of the project. We really feel that the contemporary nature of the project fits in with the neighborhood. We've had some very favorable responses from the neighbors, and we hope that you find it as beautiful as we do.
Do you have any questions for the
I'd
applicant?
address any questions.
I have one question. With
Yeah.
respect to the brick walls that are established along the front of
Yes.
the residences, you're showing grade changes, and those are surveyed grade changes. They're not just a interpolation of what is expected. That's reality.
That's correct. They are surveyed, right.
And then, so with respect to these walls, can you tell me how tall they are?
They're only going to be approximately 4 inches above grade.
4 inches above grade. So will there be railings or some kind of, how is that going to, so how tall is the wall adjacent to
The wall adjacent is less than 36 inches, so it's not going to require a railing.
Okay.
If there's a elevation, if you want to change back to, okay, I don't see the one I'm looking for. Okay.
I see what you're speaking of, and that was my main question is,
Right.
was it going to get above 36 inches?
No,
Were you
and
going to
it's
have a
not-
rail, and was that going to be incorporated?
No, yes, Tony, it won't go above 36 inches, and it will not have a handrail.
Thank you. Any other questions? Do we have anyone in the audience who would like to speak to this specific item?
Brian Fitzsimmons, 719 North Francis. I'm speaking where you normally don't hear me speak, but I'm actually supportive of this application, and the concessions made were due to a good positive meeting with Mike, the developer, and he agrees that setting the tone, and I think it would also be worth thinking about, this is hopefully the last vestige of the confusion on setbacks when hopefully the code will change. And I only bring that up for the point of, if timing is such of when that might pass, would he be able to avoid a variance at that time? So.
Yeah, what Mr. Fitzsimmons is talking about is the ordinance update that came before UDC a month ago. It's being introduced at Planning Commission tomorrow, and then its Planning Commission final hearing isn't until December, so it won't be through council until the end of January at the earliest. So it is, right now, you're evaluating it under the
It was worth a try,
existing. So yes, it was, and I did think about that when they first came in, but it's not going to time out.
Okay, that's all. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak?
Hi, my name is Steve Mason. I live across the street from this proposed development. I have 4 thoughts. First of all, I appreciate the developers reaching out to the neighbors and talking to us before this meeting. That's a great best practice to make these meetings quieter. So thank you guys. What's important to me in SOSA is the diversity of housing stock. Not every house can look like mine. So I support putting 9 units on 8 lots. I think that's fair, and we want some diversity of housing stock. I appreciate their working with the neighborhood on the setbacks and support their variance. And the aesthetics of this project, I think it's good, but I'll leave it up to you all for any details because you're a little more capable than I am. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else that would like to speak?
Good afternoon. I'm Bill Bleakley, one of the Sosa neighborhood residents. I want to join the chorus of praise for this developer and Mike's willingness to communicate with the neighborhood. I think it's a great outcome. I also want to express my appreciation for your adoption of our recommendations for standardizing the setback requirements within the Cottage District. I attended the Planning Commission Planning Committee meeting at which they considered your recommendation, and I would characterize it as a enthusiastic response to get rid of this confusion and difference in requirements, and I'm hopeful the Planning Commission will adopt them and pass them on to the council tomorrow. Again, I think this is a wonderful outcome. I think, as Steve says, it serves the interests of what we're trying to achieve within the area and also serve a variety of housing outcomes. So thank you very much.
Would anybody else like to speak?
Fill this out in a minute. Kevin Lee, 815 Northwest 8th. I am a co-owner in the project or the unit right next to this. We didn't know about this till late last Wednesday. Evidently, the previous owners we had visited with had planned a project similar to what we are with the duplex townhomes, and so we were kind of expecting to have a little more easement between us and the next building. So, like I said, a lot to take in a week, trying to figure out how to do that. That was just our only question, is this comes right at the lot line. We're 5 feet off of that lot line on our side, and it just kind of boxed things in a little bit for us. We weren't really expecting that. We didn't know the property had changed hands.
Would anybody else like to speak to this? At the risk of sounding redundant, I'm going to also state I really appreciate the fact, one, that there was a conversation prior between the the owners and the adjacent homeowners. I think that was extremely successful. It doesn't always work out that way. And I want to really commend the fact that the renderings that are shown and the documentation matches reality. That's not always what we see, and sometimes we have to kind of find our way through it. So being able to see what you're really proposing is extremely helpful. And I think that it's a successful project, and I think it shows the success of the setback requests that were made and that are being adhered to, or as close as possible. If there aren't any other comments or questions, I'll entertain a motion.
Well, I'll make a recommendation to approve the application on the basis that the project meets the regulations and guidelines of the Downtown Design District zoning ordinance, as referenced in Section C and D of the staff report, with the condition, A, that the applicant obtain a variance from the Board of Adjustment from the requirement for the front yard setback to be at or within 10 feet of the street right-of-way.
I have a motion.
Second.
And a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Can I have a second motion?
I'll motion to provide a recommendation of approval to the Board of Adjustment for a variance from the requirement for the front yard setback to be at or within 10 feet of the street right-of-way.
Second. Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you all. Item number 7 is other business. We have no items. And then we have, under communications, some administrative approval reports.
Yeah, we have 4 items that have been administratively approved since your last meeting in September. One of them is a ladder at the rear of the building plus a sign at the side of the building at 619 Northwest 23rd Street. The one on Harvey Avenue is simply a change from a wrought iron fence to a wood fence design on South Harvey and Capitol Hill. And then the last items 3 and 4 were signs on Northwest 23rd Street and in the Asian District. Those were all approved administratively per code as they met the threshold for administrative review.
Thank you, Michael. Do we have any other comments from Planning Department staff?
Exciting news. The Lincoln Boulevard overlay has been approved by the council. Final hearing was on October 9th. So the ordinance takes effect on November 8th, and that means we could be having a whole bunch more applications to review. We don't really have a feel for how much activity is out there right now or how much has been going on in the months prior, so we don't know how many applications we're going to be seeing. We have heard tell that there is a fairly large-sized project at the northeast corner of 36th and Lincoln that may be coming in very shortly, and fortuitously they had been designing their project to meet the new standards under our overlay that we established, so and you all reviewed previously. So just want to give you a heads up. We may have a little bit more workload to go through, but it's exciting to be able to put our handprints on a whole new part of downtown. So,
Thank you. Do we have any commission member comments?
I have my own news. I've taken a position in the city planning office, so I'm excited about that. Look forward to it. I'll be working in the Commercial District Revitalization Program under Kim Cooper Hart, and my orientation's next Friday, so I think this will be my last meeting. I believe I have to step down, so thank you. Thank you, appreciate it.
Congratulations.
Okay, our next meeting date is the 21st. Do we have items on the agenda?
We've been so busy, I don't remember.
you know, I don't, we may have one. We may have one. We're on the fence about whether it's administrative or not, so Lisa and I are going to talk about it. It may be before you at the meeting.
Okay, then if there are no other comments, then we are adjourned.
No, I had a guy come in from England. You already won that? It's 11 o'clock. I had a cut out earlier here. It's kind of an all day. Yeah. See y'all later.